So it's January 19th, 2026. And if you've been tracking Anthropic, or really the entire AI industry over the past, 14 months or so, you've probably noticed a sort of shift in the wind. We're just talking about chatbots anymore. That whole era of, typing a question and just getting text back is starting to feel a bit vintage.
It really does. It feels like we're moving from what you might call the oracle phase to the agent phase. It's the difference between asking a consultant for advice and hiring an employee to, actually do the work.
Exactly. And this week, that strategy just crystallized into what I'm calling a kind of civil war inside Anthropic's own product line. We have a duel on our hands. On one side, you've got the veteran Claude Code, which has been out since late 2024. And on the other, the brand new challenger that just dropped a few days ago on January 12th, Claude Cowork.
It's such a fascinating standoff because, usually a company releases a new product to replace an old one, but here they've essentially split the brain of the AI. They've specialized it. And that specialization, it forces us and you to ask a really tough question. Which one of these tools actually sits into a real human workflow?
And we have a massive stack of notes to get through today. We've got the internal release notes. We've got some really heavy productivity data from MIT and Harvard that paints a complicated picture. And we have the tech specs on how these agents actually interact with your computer. So the mission today is to figure out not just which tool wins, but what happens to you when you hand over the keys.
And handing over the keys is literal here. That's the exciting part, but it's also the scary part.
So let's set the stage, the tail of the tape. Let's start with the veteran first, Claude Code.
Okay, so Claude Code launched back in November 2024. And if you look at the design philosophy, it's unapologetically technical. It doesn't want to be your friend.
No.
It wants to be your engineer.
The source material we were reading uses this great analogy. It describes Claude Code as the hacker in the movie.
Which is, that's pretty accurate. It lives in the terminal. It's a CLI, a command line interface tool. It just bypasses all the pretty graphical stuff and hooks right into the guts of your development environment, whether that's VS Code or JetBrains or what have you.
So for the non-developers listening, people who don't spend their lives in a, black box with green text, why does that matter? Why live in the terminal? Why not just have a chat window open?
It really comes down to latency and context. When you're in a chat window, you're constantly copying and pasting code. Here's my error, fix this. Okay, here's the new code. It's high friction.
Yeah, that back and forth.
Claude Code gets rid of that loop. It lives in the project folder. It can see your entire file structure.
So it actually has eyes on the entire code base. It's not just guessing based on what you paste in.
Precisely. It can run searches to find things across thousands of files. It can edit multiple files at the same time. And this is the real killer feature. It can run tests. It doesn't just write the code. It executes the test suite to see if the code it just wrote actually works.
That's where that Michelin chef comparison from the reading comes in. You don't tell a Michelin chef how to dice the onions.
No.
You just order the beef Wellington and they handle the whole process.
That's it. You tell Claude Code, refactor this module to support two-factor auth, and it goes off, finds the files, makes the changes, runs the test to make sure it didn't break anything.
Wow.
And it can even open a pull request on GitHub to submit the work for you.
It's autonomous.
Yeah.
It's really functioning like a separate entity on your machine.
It's agentic, and that drew a very specific crowd of hardcore developers. They loved it. It removed that copy-paste tax. But, and this is where the story pivots, Anthropic started noticing something weird in their data.
The unexpected use case.
Exactly. People weren't just using it to write, Python or Rust. They started seeing people use Claude Code to organize text files, to rename batches of photos.
Wait, really? So people were using this high-powered terminal-based developer tool just to clean up their messy desktops?
Yeah. Yes, because it was the only tool that had agency. It was the only thing that could actually touch the files on your computer. And the appeal of just saying, fix my messy folder, was so strong that people were willing to struggle through a command line interface just to get it.
That's a massive signal. It just shows this hunger for an assistant that actually does things. Which brings us to the response. Anthropic sees this, and they build the challenger.
Enter Claude Cowork, released January 12th, 2026.
So if Claude Code is the hacker in the hoodie, how do we describe Cowork?
Cowork it's the executive assistant. It's that hyper-competent chief of staff sitting at the desk next to you. It's designed for, let's say, mortals. Managers, creatives, marketers, people who live in a browser and a file explorer, not the terminal.
And it's not a command line tool, right? This is an actual desktop application.
Right. Currently, it is macOS only, which is a pretty big limitation we should mention. But yes, it's an app. And its superpower is something the industry is calling computer use.
Okay, we've heard that phrase a lot, computer use. Break that down for us. How is that different from, say, a Zapier integration?
Great question. Traditional integrations, they work by plugging into a specific pipe, like a back-end channel. Computer use means the AI literally looks at your screen, it takes screenshots, it analyzes the pixels to find buttons and text fields, and it uses a virtual mouse and keyboard to click and type.
So it's navigating a user interface just like a human would. It sees the file button, moves the cursor, and clicks.
Exactly. Which means it works with any app, doesn't need a special API. If you can see it and click it, Claude Cowork can see it and click it.
The examples from the launch notes were very relatable. They mentioned the downloads folder of doom.
We all have one. It is the universal sin of the digital age.
A total graveyard of PDF menus, old receipts, random images.
And screenshots named Screenshot 2025-1212.
Right, and Court can parse that.
It can. It opens the folder, it looks at the file content, not just the name, and it identifies, okay, this is a receipt for coffee, this is a contract, and it moves them. It can even pull data from those receipts and put them into a spreadsheet for you.
It's just handling all the drudgery.
It's got that, let me handle that while you grab a coffee vibe. But we do have to talk about the price. This isn't part of that standard, $20 tier we're all used to.
Yeah.
The source material lists this as part of the Max subscription. Currently, that's between $100 and $200 a month. And it's still labeled a research preview.
That is a hefty price tag.
Yeah.
$200 a month puts this firmly in the professional tool category. This isn't just a toy. You have to believe it's giving you a real return.
You have to believe it's saving you way more than $200 worth of your time.
Which is the perfect segue into the meat of this deep dive, the data. We have studies here from MIT, Harvard, METR, that actually measure the impact of these tools.
Yeah.
Because the marketing always says 10x productivity, but
the academic literature tells a much, much more nuanced story. It's complicated. Let's start with the developer side, with Claude Code. The headline number from the MIT study is a 26% increase in tasks completed.
Which is massive. I mean, if you could tell a CTO you can get 26% more output from their engineering team just by installing software, they'd sign the check immediately.
They absolutely would, but you have to segment that data. When you look at junior developers, that number jumps to 39%.
39. Why the big discrepancy? Why does it help juniors so much more?
It's about scaffolding. Junior devs often get stuck on syntax, or they know what they want to do, but not quite how to structure it. The AI just bridges that gap instantly. It's like having a senior engineer looking over their shoulder. It raises the floor of competency.
Okay, so it's a superpower for the juniors. But I'm looking at this other study for METR about experienced developers, and this is where it gets weird. It says these tools can slow senior devs down by 19%.
This is the over-reliance trap.
Walk me through that. How does a tool that writes code instantly make you 19% slower?
Because writing the code is only maybe 10% of a senior developer's job. Understanding the system is the other 90%. When a senior dev writes code, they're building a mental model of how it impacts everything else. When the AI writes it, it might look correct.
It compiles. It runs.
Right. But it might have subtle logic flaws or security holes that it missed because it doesn't get the full business context. So the senior developer has to switch from being a creator to being an auditor. They have to read the AI's code, figure out what it did, and often rewrite it.
And that review process can take longer than just writing it yourself in the first place.
Exactly. The cognitive load shifts from logic to verification, and reading code is often harder than writing it.
That's the classic automation paradox. You spend more time managing the tool than doing the actual work.
And that applies on the generalist side, too. Let's flip the lens over to Claude Cowork. What does the research say about AI for these, general admin tasks?
The throughput numbers look really good.
They do. The study suggests anywhere from a 15% to a 66% increase in speed for things like data entry, summarization.
66%. That's a game changer. That's getting your Friday afternoon back.
Theoretically, yes. But the Harvard study in our source stack raises a huge red flag, and it's not about speed. It's about psychology.
The intrinsic motivation drop.
Right. The study found that while the output went up, the human's intrinsic motivation to do the work went down, and boredom it skyrocketed.
That seems weird. If the AI takes away the drudgery, shouldn't we be happier? Or is it that the drudgery was actually necessary?
I think two things are happening. First, sometimes that drudgery is a mental break, formatting a doc, renaming files, it's low stakes, it lets your brain rest. If the AI does all the easy stuff, you're left with only the hard decisions. It's relentless.
So you're constantly in that decision fatigue zone. You never get that little dopamine hit from finishing a simple task.
Exactly. And second, your role shifts from being a maker to being a manager. As the study points out, being a middle manager for a piece of software is an incredibly isolating experience.
Which ties into that CWB acronym in the report, counterproductive work behaviors.
Yes. The research suggests that employees who collaborate mostly with AI agents instead of humans start to feel socially isolated.
Because you can't complain about a client to Claude Cowork. You can't have that water cooler moment.
I mean, you can complain to it, but it's just simulating empathy. It doesn't actually care. That social nutrition you get from work is missing. And the data shows lonely employees disengage. They stop caring.
So we have this weird trade-off. We have a tool Cowork that acts like an office friend, but the net result might be that you feel lonelier than if you just did the filing yourself.
It just transforms the office dynamic. You become a solo operator managing a fleet of bots. It's efficient, sure, but it's sterile.
I want to pivot to the risks. We talked about agency, the ability to control the mouse, edit files. That sounds powerful, but also terrifying.
It is the single biggest risk factor here. And the source material is very explicit about destructive actions.
Destructive actions. It sounds so dramatic, like something from a sci-fi movie.
Well, in this context, it's just about irreversibility. If a chatbot gives you a bad answer, you ignore it. No harm done. But if Claude Cowork has access to your files and you say, clean up this folder, and it misinterprets clean up as delete everything older than 30 days,
You've just lost your tax returns, your project's files.
you've lost your data. And unlike a human who might pause and say, hey, are you sure you want to delete the 2023 financials? The AI might just execute.
The source does say Anthropic has mitigations for this, right? They aren't just letting it run wild.
Oh, they do. It's supposed to pause and ask for confirmation on high-stakes actions. I am about to delete 50 files. Proceed.
But we all know how users behave. We call it click-through fatigue.
Right. We're trained to just click yes. Okay, accept. If you're using this tool all day and it asks you 5 times if it can move a file, by the 6th time when it's asking to delete something, you might approve it just out of muscle memory.
There was that lighter example in the notes, the fear of Cowork deleting your entire meme collection because it decided they were junk files.
Which is funny, but it highlights the core alignment problem. The AI's definition of junk might not match yours. To the AI, a low-res image with text on it is garbage. To you, it's a cultural artifact.
Cultural artifact, I like that.
But seriously, giving an AI write and delete access to your local drive, it requires a level of trust that I don't think most people have developed yet. And maybe they shouldn't.
Which brings us to the usability gap. We've got 2 tools. Code is powerful but scary if you're not comfortable in a CLI. Cowork is accessible, but it's expensive and it's Mac only.
It feels like we're in that early adopter valley. The tech is impressive, but the user experience still has a lot of rough edges. You have to really want it to work.
So let's bring this all together. We started by framing this as a duel, code versus Cowork. But looking at it all now, is it really a fight, or is it more of a partition?
I don't think they're fighting for the same turf at all. I think Anthropic is acknowledging that work is bifurcated. You have deep, specialized technical work, that's for Claude Code. And then you have broad, administrative, logistical work, that's for Claude Cowork.
The specialist versus the generalist.
Exactly. And in a futuristic workflow, maybe not today, but a year from now, you might use both. You'd have code running in your terminal, building the app, and Cowork on your desktop managing the project timeline and answering emails about it.
Which brings us back to the human in the loop.
Yep.
If you have the specialist and the generalist doing the execution, what's your job?
Orchestration.
Orchestration.
That is the big so what for 2026. You, the listener, you need to realize you're no longer just a user of software. You're being promoted, whether you like it or not, to a manager of a digital workforce.
And as we learned from that Harvard study, being a manager is hard. It requires a totally different skill set. You have to delegate, verify, maintain quality, all without doing the work yourself.
And you have to manage your own psychology. You have to find new ways to get satisfaction if the making part is outsourced. You have to find joy in the architecture of the work, not just the bricklaying.
And that's the tension I want to leave everyone with.
Yeah.
The numbers, that 26% boost, the 66% boost, they're really seductive. It's hard to say no to that kind of efficiency.
It is. The market will always, always optimize for efficiency.
But if we optimize our workdays to the point where we're just lonely supervisors of automated agents, are we actually winning?
That's the question. If the cost of all this productivity is isolation and a loss of what makes the work enjoyable, we might be optimizing the humanity right out of our own careers.
A profound trade-off to consider as we stare down the barrel of 2026. The tools are here. They have agency. The only question is, do you have the agency to manage them without losing yourself in the process?
Couldn't have put it better.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another stack of reports. Until then, keep your hands on the wheel.